Welcome to Future of Flushing. I'm Vito Calisi. With me is Jonathan Barron. And with us today from the Syracuse Mets, it's Luke Ritter. Luke, you are having the season, man. How are you feeling this year?
It's been a good year. A little ups and downs like any season, but right now I'm doing pretty well.
So, Luke, let's go back to really your college days. You played your college ball at Wichita State. You were actually in the same lineup as Alec Bohm. And there's another Met with some Wichita State, former Met, I should say, with Wichita State ties. That's Mike Pelfrey. So talk a little bit about your time at Wichita State and what kind of relationship you have with Mike Pelfrey.
Yeah, so Wichita State was actually my only scholarship offer out of high school. So I wanted to stay close to home, and I picked, and Wichita State happened to be the school that had the most interest at the time. I grew up a K-State fan, and they really didn't have any interest, so I picked Wichita State. And then Bohm is actually a really close friend. We were always hanging out in the dorms, hitting together. Still in good contact with him today. Usually see him once or twice a year, usually before spring training. But he's still close. I'll give him a call every now and then and check up on, see how he's doing in the big leagues. And then Mike Pelfrey, he came on when I was a junior. So he was our pitch coach as a junior. And I'll tell you what, he is one of the most fun people to be around. The stories on him, he's one of the most interesting, just everything he had with his career with the big leagues. And then he brought all that down to college, and none of us really had any idea of what was going on. And he had a lot of good knowledge on just baseball and just told great stories and was a really fun person to be around, had great knowledge of the game. And then he was there for my senior year as well. But I usually try to go back to Wichita State every year before spring training and see the coaches, see the facilities. It's a big portion of my baseball career, and I really enjoyed my time there.
You know, John knows this about me, but I'm a gigantic Mike Pelfrey fan.
Yes.
So John and I are both lifelong Mets fans who happen to now work for the Mets. And on my desk at work is a jersey that I had specially customized to say Big Pelf on the back. I went out and got that made when I was a teenager. But yeah, man, it's really cool to see that Mike is doing such good things at his alma mater too, because he also went to Wichita State. Speaking on college, I think it's a good time to talk about the draft. And you had two separate draft experiences. Do you want to walk us through what's going on in your mind and how different those 2 days, those two experiences were spread out over multiple days?
Yeah, so the draft for me, the first time was actually very stressful. So how it all worked. So my junior year, I started really slow. So really wasn't on many people's radars at the beginning of the year. I had a really slow start. And then I went on a good little stretch the second half of the year and started getting on some people's radar. And we always had people in the stands because we had Alec Bohm, another guy was Grayson Janista, Cody Hoyer. All these guys were big name guys at our school, so they were always around. And then I really wanted to sign as a junior because for the most part, I think we had 11 guys drafted, and most of them were my best friends. And unfortunately, it just didn't work out. But looking back on it, I think it was for the best because I went back as a senior, and I kind of proved again that I was a good hitter and could hit at the college level, and gave me a better chance, I think, with the Mets going forward. But the second time I got drafted was a way better experience. I had an idea that I was going to get taken. It was definitely more of was kind of a relief. It was like, hey, I'm going to sign. I'm going to go play. And then I got to celebrate with my family a little bit more. It was kind of more of a dream come true. Like, hey, I'm going to play professional baseball.
And you made a good decision. You started your career with the Brooklyn Cyclones in 2019, and that team wound up winning a championship. So right as you started your pro career, you had that taste of success. What was that like going straight to pro ball in your draft year and then going on to win that title with the Cyclones?
It was a lot of fun. So especially in Brooklyn, I had never been to the city, so we were staying in downtown Brooklyn. And we were good. We had a lot of good college seniors that knew how to play baseball. And I think in the lower levels of A-ball and low A, and the more quality baseball you play in those levels, and we won games. So we had an idea of how to win games, and the ability to win the championship. I think it was the last game in the Penn League history. It was a lot of fun. So the celebration, how they treated it at the end, and we got to go to Citi Field. It was a very good experience.
Now, shortly after that, you have to deal with, obviously, the impact the rest of the world dealt with in 2020 and COVID. Tell us about what it was like being in player development during the pandemic.
When they sent us home from spring training, I actually got a real job. My dad owns a furniture company, and he needed some help because there was nobody working. So I moved furniture pretty much every day from 8 a.m. till 4 o'clock, and then I would go to our facility where I train at. I would go work out after the end of the day, and then I would just do that for pretty much the whole year because we didn't have a season. We would have Fridays. We would have a bunch of the pro guys around Kansas City. We would do live at bats at a local field and try to have like a makeshift at bats, I would say, just to get something going. And then luckily in November we had Instructs, and then that was kind of really the only baseball I had that year. So definitely it was an interesting time, a little step back of where I was, and then it was then looking back on it, I think it was just a long off season. It's kind of how it felt for till the next year.
So that next year, 2021 in Brooklyn, you had kind of a power surge. You hit 14 home runs. Then you go on to play in the AFL at the end of the 2022 season. What was that experience like in the Arizona Fall League with some of the best prospects in the sport?
Yeah, it was a good experience. I keep joking around every time I watch a big league game now. I was like, oh, I played against that guy. That guy was on that team so much. But the talent there was kind of more of an eye opening to me. It was like these guys are all probably going to be in the big leagues here soon, and I'm playing with them. And I got, for the most part, I feel like it was more of I can play with them. I got better defensively. I got really good quality at bats. You're facing good arms every day, so it makes you a better baseball player playing the best players.
I do want to go back to Brooklyn for a second because I want to talk to you about what it's like adjusting to Brooklyn because it's a notably hard park to hit at. There's a lot of factors going on. You got like a breeze coming in from the ocean right over there. You're also playing on turf because the breeze from the salt water affects the grass. What was it like getting used to playing in Brooklyn?
I actually hit terrible at home. So I think I hit all my homers or any sort of good stretches were on the road because I struggle with, if I think pole is my big thing, and you can't hit the ball to right field there because it's an out. So like the wind blows in 25 miles, at least 20 miles from right field. So I really didn't hit well at home. But I was already used to the turf from Wichita State, so that wasn't a huge issue. But it was an adjustment. Just you're definitely there's a lot of fans. There's stuff going on every night. There's roller coasters in the background. I think I had a couple games where the fireworks are playing at 7th, 8th inning in a late game on a Friday or Saturday. So just a lot of distractions, and kind of makes you tone in and focus more on baseball.
Something we've asked a lot of players is there's this weird aspect of the Mets player development system where you start in Port St. Lucie, then you go to Brooklyn, and then you go back to the suburbs to make it back to the city. So did you find that urban lifestyle of living in New York challenging at all? And was it hard to adjust back to going to like Binghamton and Syracuse?
I say the biggest adjustment, especially because when you're in Brooklyn, it's the confined living. I'd say, so I lived in a hotel for my whole first two seasons with, thank God I had a really, really good roommate where I got really close with him. But we're in a really small hotel. You have to get used to the hotel life of every week I'm living in a different hotel. So that's probably the biggest adjustment was it's a new hotel, or my home hotel is where I live back at home. And then we're on the road, we're in a new hotel. But I enjoy the apartments, the bigger spaces, definitely at Double-A and Triple-A.
Luke, you're also a guy who has experienced multiple regimes of Mets baseball. You were drafted in 2019. Just talk about some of the changes that you've noticed in the player development system, going back to then and now obviously with Steve Cohen as the Mets owner.
I'd say the investment in the player development has only gotten better. So I've known other guys in other organizations, and I'll tell them kind of the stuff that we do, and I always ask what their organizations do for their players. And I still think the Mets do the best job. They provide essentially the most resources, money, quality of food, just simple things that go unnoticed on when I'm experiencing it every day towards somebody that maybe it's not of a high money team that doesn't invest as much. And as a player side of it, you see the difference, and it makes a big difference. And I think their resources of the analytics side and just the development of where they're going has gotten a lot better with just how to develop hitters, pitchers. It's definitely going in a good direction.
Being at Syracuse now, you've had a chance to play with a bunch of guys who have had some major league experience, like Tomas Nido, Luke Voit, some others. How helpful has it been to learn from those guys and get some advice from them?
It's been great, especially I see more on their day-to-day work. So especially as a hitter, I see the routines, what they do in the infield, how to take care of their bodies, just simple things that have worked for them to be successful in the big leagues. I can see every day is a really big help for me.
Now, what was the vibe like when Luke Voit ripped off the sleeves and showed up for that game?
Well, we kind of already knew he was going to do it, so I think it's because he doesn't. I don't think he wears an undershirt ever. So in that jersey, you have to have an undershirt for the sleeves, and I think we took a team picture with that jersey, and I don't think he wore sleeves, so we kind of saw it coming, and he didn't wear it. And thank God he hit a homer, so it was definitely cool.
And that night, we started calling him Nuke Voit. And then we were like, well, there's another Luke on the Syracuse Mets, obviously Luke Ritter. So we want you to choose right now. Do you prefer the nickname Nuke Ritter or Ritter the Hitter? Which one vibes with you better?
I've heard Ritter the Hitter my whole career now. So
All
I
right,
think
so we're going to stick with it.
Yeah, it started in Brooklyn. Somebody said it in the stands or something, and then it kind of just has stuck every level throughout the minors.
Fair enough.
While you're figuring your path and figuring out what your role will be, how important do you think versatility on the defensive side has been to you?
It's big, especially for me. It keeps me in the lineup. Anytime I get a chance to be in the lineup, no matter where it's at, I'm happy. So any new position that they tell me I can play or I'm trying to play will keep me in the lineup. That's my ultimate goal, is to be in the lineup every day.
So Luke, I want to go back to something that happened earlier this year. You hit three homers in a game when you're still at Binghamton. It was actually your last game with Binghamton. What did you eat for breakfast that morning? What do you remember about that day?
It was very good timing. So my parents usually try to come out once or twice a year, and they happened to be in town that weekend. So they took me out to, I remember what I ate. I was French toast, eggs, and bacon. They took me out to like a restaurant kind of on a golf course in the hills and wherever we were in Pennsylvania. So they got to see me play that game, and I look back and it was funny because I don't think I had DH the entire year, and that was the first DH day I had the whole year, and I happened to have that game. So
now that we're talking about food and what you're into off the field, let's talk a little bit about football. You're a big Kansas City Chiefs fan. Chiefs just won a Super Bowl. How are you feeling about the Chiefs this season coming up?
Every year, I think they're going to win the Super Bowl. When you got 15 as your QB, it's in my mind they're the favorite. They're the team to beat. Especially, we get spoiled watching the games because it's to the point where if they're losing, we're kind of the Tom Brady effect now, where they're going to come back in the fourth quarter. If they get the ball with 2 minutes left, they can drive down the field and win the game. It's honestly it's very fun as a city, and everyone's rallied behind him, and can't say enough about him.
Have you had a chance to meet Patrick Mahomes?
I would say so. I don't know if you've seen the new quarterback documentary.
Of course.
So the facility he trains at in that documentary, I'm actually kind of in it. So there's a couple blurred out people in the documentary at the facility, but he and his trainer will work out there during the season, and that's where I work out in the off season. So I've seen him I'd say a handful of times working out up there. I was more of like, I try to treat him as, he's just another dude. I'd walk by and say what's up, and he's just another guy up at the facility working out. And I've seen him. I know what car he drives. I mean, it's cool to see him up there getting his work in.
How many wins this year for the Chiefs? What's the number we're pegging him at?
I bet they win 12 or 13 games again. They always have 3 or 4 games in the year where it's like, here's a loss to the Raiders or a loss to the Colts on a fourth week of the season, and it's
Sure.
like to get the Chiefs locked back in. It's but 12 to 13 wins, they'll get the 1 seed and then go to the Super Bowl again.
All right. Well, you heard it there first from Luke Ritter. Chiefs are headed back. Where's the Super Bowl this year, by the way? Do you know?
I'm not sure.
Is it Vegas? It might be Vegas.
I think it's Vegas.
I think
That's
it's
a good
Vegas.
spot,
So that would be a good one to be at for sure.
Yeah.
That stadium in person is insane looking. I've not been inside. I've only driven by the outside of it off season, but that thing is a behemoth.
I always want to go. I've been looking at the Vegas Chiefs schedule, and I think they play it at Vegas. I'm gonna see if I can go this year. So
you got to hit the club in the end zone.
that's insane.
Now, a question we like to ask a lot of guys. So this might resonate with you, or this might fall on deaf ears. But you get a sandwich. Are you cold cuts or are you cutlets?
Depends on the place. So I think the place has a big emphasis on if I'm getting cold or hot. So like I really like Firehouse subs, and I like their hot sandwiches. And then another place, maybe Jimmy John's, I get cold. So it just kind of depends on the place.
See, that's versatility. That's the versatility we were talking about just a second ago on the baseball field, but you're showing it at the sandwich shops. That's important. And, speaking of versatility, I know this is a really weird segue. Playing some other positions, have you ever gotten a chance to catch?
Our catching quarter always jokes with me. I grew up as a catcher, actually. So I caught all the way till high school, and I was like, looking back, and I was kind of smart on the decision because those they get beat up. And I'm like thinking, I was like, I kind of, in my mind, I made a better choice to stick with the infield route. But my catching coordinator will always bring up, hey, you should go try catching. We could always use catchers. You get more versatility back there. So, but I used to catch growing up. Yep.
All right, Luke, we got one more question for you. You're one step away from the majors. When that day finally comes, what's the walk-up song going to be? Have you thought about that yet?
It's always on the mind, but I've listened to my walk-ups throughout Pro Bowl have been "Show Me Love." It's like a remix with Chance the Rapper. It's something I used to listen in the cage with one of my college hitting coaches throughout college, and he would always play it like one of the first couple songs when we would start like my routine, and it kind of stuck, and then I just kept it going throughout Pro Bowl. So I'll probably just stick with that, but I don't know. You could always do a fan favorite. My dad would always joke with me about doing that. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see when that comes.
Well, Luke, thanks so much for taking the time to talk with us today. And just best of luck on your journey. And to all the listeners out there, we'll see you all in the future.